That's cool, man. That's very cool. So
Hmm.
I love your story, man. I love the idea of you weaving in all of these necessary social and cultural values into these kids along with sport, because I think all of them go hand in hand, and it just makes people stronger human beings. So thank you so much for taking a minute. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And I want to begin our conversation before we get into your life by asking you, 4 years ago, we were all wrapping our heads around this pandemic and how we were going to get through it. And now that we're kind of in that quote unquote post pandemic era, how did you survive that time period? And how did it change the way that you approach life?
Wow. So let me just start with how did I survive it as the chief visionary officer for LEAD? Um, we People started to step up and see us in a way that they had never seen us. We've always had the mission to help Black boys overcome what we call three pandemics that threaten their life: crime, poverty, and racism. So this is even before COVID.
Wow.
So when 2020 happened and the coronavirus pandemic, but then also the racial pandemonium, we became relevant. I mean, people start saying, okay, there's this organization in Atlanta, LEAD. We got significant funding from Kevin Garnett. Uh, I'm not a huge basketball fan at all. I've never met him. But through our relationship with Laureus Sport for Good USA, he found us. We got financial support from Matt Ryan. A lot of people started putting in a ton of money into us because we became an organization that flipped. We were prior to COVID, we were about 75% programming and 25% outreach, and then during COVID we became 75% outreach and then 25% programming. So we needed the money because you can't have fun without funding. So we survived because our profile heightened because of our mission and people were seeking us out. Personally, though, how I survived, I became an avid runner. Um, the killing of Ahmaud Arbery here in our state of Georgia, in Brunswick, and he, as a Black man, was hunted and killed by three white men for jogging in their neighborhood. And so jogging jogging was not something culturally for me, being born and raised in Atlanta. Black people in the community that I was from, that was working class, did not have time to be jogging and be an avid runner. So I always saw it as a white thing to do. And I just made a commitment to myself. I said, hey, listen, in order to get myself mentally strong, I need to start taking on things that I don't want to do. And I didn't want to run. I started running, and that spiritually, mentally, and physically and emotionally saved my life becoming an avid runner during that time.
Wow. That's amazing, man. So do you love it now? Is it something that's that part of your diet all the time?
Man, it is. And I'm sitting here just even with excitement because we have in Atlanta on 4th of July the Peachtree Road Race, which is the world's largest 10K. So
Wow.
that's 6.2 miles. In 2020, that was the very first run I ever did, which is not something that you typically would jump into doing if you're not an avid runner. And I was new, and we actually started, and so we had to do it not on the with the thousands of people because we were not coming together during that time. So everybody basically did it virtually, and you picked your own location and you ran 6.2 miles and you recorded it. Well, I was able to run it, and from my grandmother's house, who had recently passed, and we ran it 6.2 miles to our L.E.A.D Center for Youth, located in the West End.
Right on.
And so Rich Kanah, who's the executive director for the Atlanta Track Club, was at the starting line and the finish line. And I got a chance to run it with some of our program participants, our lead ambassadors, Black boys. And so this year in January, I was diagnosed with osteoarthritis in my left knee. I was on crutches. And it stems back to a knee injury that I had when I was playing baseball. And I was like, I don't know. I couldn't imagine not being able to run. So I went to see an orthopedic surgeon. The first one I saw said, we need to do full knee replacement as soon as possible.
Wow.
Got a second opinion, and the surgeon said that I didn't need it. I could wait until I'm in my 60s. He said, just train really hard, um, run, walk the Peachtree. So I've been working with Brandon Butler over at Pinnacle Fitness, and July 4th, I'm scheduled to run again, my fifth
Right on.
one. But if I wasn't able to do it, I mean, mentally that would be tough.
Yeah. So in high school, I was a huge baseball fan, but I was 4'11". So I didn't have a lot of hope. So I was a cross country runner. And man, you get to a point, and you know this as a runner, people would always be like, "Man, how can you run that long all the time?" There's something in your brain when you're a runner that just clicks, and that endorphin rush, that whole like adrenal flow of what you're doing. It's just the entire process becomes a part of your psychology, a part of what you do and what you look forward to.
Absolutely. I mean, and even when you talk about those endorphins, I mean, and that's why even when it comes down to different things like addictions, and especially, drug addiction, alcohol addiction, our brain is a very powerful thing. And so I would say that anybody that was struggling with a really bad addiction, I'm not saying that running is the cure all, but running and having that flow and feeling those endorphins and getting committed to doing that could definitely be a part of the rehabilitation, because it's great for my mind, body, and soul.
Yeah, an addendum as a 51-year-old man, I had bad shin splints, so I can't do it. That pounding on the pavement took a toll, so I bike now. So I just get to see the world a little quicker, it's a little smoother, you know? But there's nothing like it, man. When that burn starts, you know that you're adding to the only temple that we got, which is our body. So it's good.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking about that as a backup, right, cycling. So
Yeah. Yeah,
we'll
you'll dig
see.
it. Definitely. With the runner mentality, man, yeah, it's fun. So I want to know at the end of the day, if I put you in front of a bunch of third graders, on paper, it's clear what you do, but if I put you in front of a bunch of third graders at career day and one of the kids said, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
I would say, I would give them this illustration. I said, all right, so kids, imagine um, a crocodile infested river. It's crocodiles everywhere. They're hungry. They're in this river, and there's 100 of them. And on one side of that river are zebras that are trying to cross the other side of the river because that's where the food is. Now, what these zebras got to understand is when they cross this river, some are going to make it, some aren't, because these crocodiles, they're hungry. They want food, but these zebras want to get to the other side and they want to get food as well. And so what I do is lead as our chief visionary officer and our CEO Kelly Stewart, who happens to be my wife. We have built these boats. We've built these boats to where zebras can get inside of the boats and be able to, with 100% guarantee, cross over to the other side. And so that's what we do through the sport of baseball for boys and tennis for girls. We build these boats, we put them on these boats, these zebras on these boats so they can get to the other side. Now, undoubtedly, some of the zebras are going to say, you know what, I don't have time. This line is long, getting onto these boats. So they're going to cross themselves. And some of those zebras are going to be able to get across, but they're going to only be able to get across because the crocodiles are so busy eating up these zebras that do get caught up. So basically, what we do with sports is making sure that Black boys and Black girls have an opportunity to win at the game of life.
So take me back in your life. When you were in the third grade, was your dream to be a Major League Baseball player? What were you dreaming?
Let's see. In fact, yeah, third grade. So I was 8 years old,
Yeah.
1984. Man, that was a good call right there on the third grade. Miss Blue was my teacher at Grove Park Elementary School, and summer of '84, um, I would be at my grandmother's house, my grandmother and granddad, in Southwest Atlanta, and in the West End community, and my parents would drop me off, and I was there all day. There was no summer camp. their house was summer camp. And so I remember in the daytime watching Chicago Cubs baseball games with my granddad, and at night I would watch Braves games with my
Yeah.
grandmother. Because both of those teams were the only two that were on the superstation that could be syndicated across the
I,
country.
I was doing the same thing, man.
So I would watch those games with my granddad. We weren't having conversations about the game. We were just watching them. I remember he would be in the bed. I would be at the bottom of the bed, and I was just kind of sitting there. And they had this very large dresser, and the television, small size television, would sit on top of the dresser. To my right was a air conditioner that was hanging out of the window. It was really loud but really
Yep.
cold because Atlanta is really hot. And my favorite player was Gary Matthews,
Yeah.
Senior, the Sarge.
Uh-huh.
The game would be over, and I would go outside, and I would be in Wrigley Field during that time. Let me see. So I was born in '76. So I think in '76 we were right at about 20% of Major League Baseball players being Black American, and so '84 probably was 15%. Maybe there was a drop, but about 15%. Now today, we're less than 8% in 2024.
Wow.
So me looking at television and saying, because I'm also what's happening is it's peaceful. So I'm in this place of peace, even within my family, where there was a lot of trauma. Um, if it was hockey, I probably would have wanted to play hockey. If it was golf, but it was baseball.
Yeah.
So I go outside, I'm hitting rocks. I've converted my grandparents' front yard and backyard into Wrigley Field. And also in '84, Jesse Jackson ran for president.
Yeah.
So a black man running for the president of the United States. I knew enough about race relations to know that that was not normal. Uh, but he was so well positioned, like, he might have a chance in my eyes as a third grader. Run DMC came out with their first album,
Yep.
and Michael Jordan was drafted by the Chicago Bulls.
Uh-huh.
So all of these things happening on top of me being born and raised in the city of Atlanta, which is the home of the civil rights movement. All of these things around me are giving me cues that I could grow up to be a professional baseball player with the Chicago Cubs.
There's such a small percentage. I remember when I was in eighth grade, a dude came in and took a marker and he put 0.000138 and said, "What is that number?" We're all like, "I don't know." He's like, "That's the chance that anybody that you know will ever make it into a major professional sports team." So the fact that you dreamed on that TV and you actually did it and went to one of the most hallowed stadiums in the entire history of sport. What was that first step on that field, the first game? What was that like?
Very emotional. I remember even my mom, when I went there for my workout with the Cubs, going through the draft process. She was like, why are you crying? And I'm like, I mean, this is Wrigley Field. This is it. I mean, as a kid and being able to see that, and just the whole journey, just to even get to that point. My life was just a lot of traumatic things, that I was experiencing. But the Latin word for passion is suffering. And so whatever we're passionate about is rooted in what we have suffered from or suffering from. And what I was suffering from as a child was, um, school does not come easy to me. I had ADHD, and I had no desire to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer. And if those things didn't work out, then you needed to be a teacher, educator, just to prove yourself to be a part of the Black bourgeois, which is the middle class of Blacks. And none of those things came easy to me. None of those things was of interest to me. So me having this love to play baseball was contrary to all those things. So I'm dealing with, can I be successful in life if I want to take this athletics route? So I'm struggling with all of that, and just different decisions that I had to make and places that I had to go to be able to play baseball. But for it to come through and happen is a story of clear decisions and people. Um, but I'm glad it happened to me.
So on that journey to become a professional player and now being a leader of helping the youth of this world get to a better place and be stronger, who was that hero for you? Who has that been that ultimate inspiration in your life?
So I'll say four. One starts with my dad, Willie Stewart, who just has been a worker all of his life. My dad really set the tone to help me to understand how to be patient and calculated and have work ethic. And in spite of what was going on, my dad has always been in my life. And in my house as well too. And so my mom and dad um, got started. My mom was 16, my dad was 25. So there were some challenges there, but so he was my first example. My second example was Emmett Johnson Sr., who was the chairman of the Atlanta Public Schools Board of Education. And he was my very first baseball coach.
Okay.
So I played at Cascade Youth Organization, which is in Southwest Atlanta, which is the middle class part of Atlanta. Back then, as a kid, and even now, Northwest Atlanta, where I was from, was where majority impoverished and working class people live. So I was able to become a part of the fabric of the middle class Black bourgeois because of this team that I played on. So although I was Black and poor, my coach was one of the most powerful people in the city of Atlanta,
Yeah.
being the chairman of the school board. So playing on that team was a game changer. Then the third person was TJ Wilson, who was an Atlanta Police Department officer. And he discovered me when I was 14 years old at Westlake High School. And he saw that I had some baseball ability. And from there, he started getting me baseball lessons in Forsyth County with Denny Pritchett. And so, for people that don't understand that, that just sounds like, okay, you went somewhere, got some lessons from somebody. I'm a Black kid from the inner city of Atlanta that went to Forsyth County, which was the home of the Ku Klux Klan, a very huge presence in Forsyth County, getting lessons from a white man in a white training facility with no other Black people other than myself and Coach TJ.
Wow.
And so, to do that was one of my first. Matter of fact, that was the first time I had ever been around more than 20 white people at one time.
Yeah.
So I had all of these fears
Mhm.
that did not come true. So I'm getting a positive experience, which is changing how I'm thinking about white people.
Yeah.
And then I had this white coach who was training me and believed in me, but I saw Coach TJ giving him money. So that right there kind of stuck in my mind to say, wow, like you can get paid to teach somebody how to do this stuff. So that means I don't have to go to college and have a degree if I want to become a coach. Um, and then TJ made sure I was at my first Cubs workout at 14 years old. So I was getting those lessons, and then that summer I was trying out with the Chicago Cubs. I couldn't get signed, but it was the beginning of me developing a relationship. And then the fourth person was Derek Stafford, who is from Zone One Bankhead, Northwest Atlanta, like me. He's much older, and he went to Morehouse College, and he became an NBA referee after doing high school and college games. And he was one of my first travel ball coaches for baseball. So by the time I'm playing for him, like I'm playing with somebody who, if Google was around, you could Google him and you could see him. He knows Michael Jordan. He knows all these powerful people. And so I'm now being exposed to this people. He's got this huge house and driving nice cars, but he's using his influence, affluence, and advocacy to help Black boys like me. So these are people that started with my dad and all the way to Coach Stafford that has really shaped me to do what I'm doing today.
So that's what I was going to get at. You could have chosen to do anything after your professional career, but you're doing probably one of the hardest things, but probably the most rewarding thing, which is to help all of these kids because you've been in that position. So, what is that daily fire for you to get up, to do this work, and to help legions of kids like feel more comfortable on this planet?
Yeah, so you know, I have a mission, a life mission, but then also a core feeling, belief that keeps me going. So my mission in life is to be significant, serving millions, bringing them into a relationship with Jesus Christ. Starting with my wife Kelly, our daughter Mackenzie, and our other daughter McKenna. Now, when I say bring them into a relationship with Jesus Christ, I'm not saying here's some Bible verses and
Yeah.
let's go get baptized. It's just for me as a follower of Christ, the only reason why I'm concerned about other people is because of that relationship. If I did not have it, then I wouldn't be doing it. And so when people ask me, why are you doing this? The what to do is easy. How to do it is a little bit challenging, and when to get started can be challenging. The why doing it is really really challenging. So now that I have my why, then I'm good, and everything else gets a little bit easier. So, and then I don't believe that Atlanta, my birth city, the birth city of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the home of the civil rights movement, I don't believe it will ever become a world class city until hundreds of thousands of Black people are living a sustainable life of significance. In this city, if you're born in poverty, you have a 4% chance of making it out. So, this city is majority African American. And if you're born in poverty here, you have a 4% chance of making it out. In addition to that, Atlanta is number one for income inequality based on race in America. In addition to that, America is number one for income inequality among the G7 advanced countries. So we're talking France, we're talking Canada, we're talking about the European Union. So this is the wrong place to be Black and poor in the world.
Yeah.
And and with that, again, so for me, I don't think that Atlanta will ever become a world-class city, then I'm using my life experiences and what Atlanta did for me to help me get to this point, and just use that as a blueprint and a roadmap. I mean, I've read books about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who's the son of the city. I've read books about Maynard Jackson, who's the son of the city, who was the first Black mayor. Um, but I don't know their life well enough to model our organization after them. So we're just going to use my life, all of my imperfections and all.
So, of all of these things that you've done, you've been a professional player, you're helping all of these kids. There's a lot, you've come a long way. What are you the proudest of?
Oh man, I think I'm the proudest of the fact that I could die today, and what's in my head is already down on paper, in a living document. So I'm at peace, although I am healthy, plan on living for a very, very long time. But I think that, it's unfortunate that people go to their grave and they do amazing things, and you're still wondering like, okay, well, how do we get what he or she did on paper so that we can keep it going? So I'm very diligent about writing, diligent about creating things to a place of process, so that it can be done. Because when you use the word legion, developing legions, legions is not just a lot. That's a lot, a lot, a lot. I
Yeah.
mean, and so I'm very proud of that. But even being here with you, I mean, this will be something that'll live on. So there are people that will be able to look at this and hear this, and I believe with a level of certainty, if for no other reason than the way you're asking the questions, there's a sequence to it, and they can be able to follow it and feel it. So that's what I'm most proud of that.
So, CJ, at the end of the day, all these people in your life have a certain version of who they think you are. Family, friends, all of the kids, business associates, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think that I am a coaching catalyst and a spiritual steward. That is who I think I am. And then I got one job, and that's just to protect that. Um, I I think that um, I think stupidity is knowing the right thing to do and not doing it. I think struggle is trying to achieve a goal. Um, I think that success is achieving the goal. And then I think that significance is using your success to serve others. So um, I just got to work really hard not to be stupid. I got to work even harder not to be around stupid people. But when I am being stupid, the bridge to struggle is humility, not thinking less than myself, but thinking of others more than myself. So I'm a coaching catalyst. I am a spiritual steward, and I gotta protect that. Don't I don't. I mean, I mean, people have told me, CJ, you got to start a podcast. You got to do all. I, I don't. That's not something that I need to be doing. I think if I start trying to do that until I'm called to do it, it'll take me away from being a coaching catalyst and a spiritual steward. You can be a coaching catalyst and a spiritual steward and have a podcast and do all these things, but that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm not going to do it.
Absolutely. It's what you feel in your heart. So, if anyone wants to find out more about the Lead Center, get involved, reach out to you, any of the good work that you're doing, where's the best place to go?
Well, two places. One, our website is leadcenterforyouth.org, and four is FOR. So lead center, FOR youth.org. And then my website is iamcjstewart.com. Yeah, iamcjstewart.com. And I'm very active on social media, specifically on Instagram. So I am CJ Stewart, on LinkedIn, Facebook, and regularly people will say when they see me out places, man, I really, like those questions that you pose on social media and just dialogue. So dialogue doesn't hold us to having to come up with the answer. It's just creating a brave space so that we can talk. I don't agree with you on this. You don't agree with me on that, and we'll pick back up tomorrow. And let's just keep leaning in. So I write a blog once a week, every week. And so, those are posted, and, good place for people to comment, reshare, all of that good stuff. So again, but that's a part of me being able to make sure that, um, and I love how you asked me, how would I explain this to a third grader? Uh, it, I mean, I've written about that,
Yeah.
and because nobody's ever asked me that question, but the way God works, years ago, I was like, what if somebody asked me how would I explain this to a third grader?
Look at
So
that. We ran into each other, man. That's
yeah,
CJ, man, I love your energy. This has been an honor, man. Thank you so much for opening up and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
likewise, my pleasure. This was great.
Yeah, before we get out of the door here, I got to tell you, years ago, so now I work as an IT technician by day in a school district. I've always been in education, and this is where it started. I got out of corporate America. I was trying to figure out my life, and I went to a YMCA. And I'm a tech guy, so I'm running as the white guy. I'm running a couple of computer labs in two inner city locations. My partner, who's one of my favorite people on the planet, he was a football player at Oklahoma. He's black. I'm the white guy. His name's Phil. So he had the muscle. So if any of those kids got out of line, they would look at him and be like, all right, I'm good. And then I would get in there and hit him with the smarts. I would hit him with the computers and all that. But I remember when I worked there, I had never really experienced this bridge between all of us and all of what we are taught as perceived differences. We are all so much alike. We are all looking for so many similar things. And I love that gig so much. I love those kids. They always came back. So when I think about what you're doing, That work is so indispensable, and you being a successful black man that's decided to step out and say, "I'm gonna take care of these kids because I was taken care of," you're passing on a very essential torch, and you are leading to legions of kids, and I have the utmost admiration for the fact because I've seen a lot of athletes even here in Kansas City that sell cars and do things and keep that capitalistic money going, but there's not a lot of guys like you that put your courage on the line and say, I'm going to give this back because I was giving it back. I'm going to send a ripple in that pond that's going to just go crazy for generations to come. So there's going to be a lot of kids that you'll never meet that are going to be cognizant and thankful that you came out and said, there's another way in this world. You can beat that 4%. You can get out and you can go somewhere else.
Man, that's awesome. Well, hey, I really appreciate that. That's the kind of affirmation that I need for those tough days. And we all have a life calling, and I found mine. And I'll just say, pretty quickly, the key to finding your my calling was answering four questions. What do I worry about? What do I dream about? What do I cry about? And what brings me unconditional joy? Answering those questions for 40 days allowed me to get to this place where I am. So now all I got to do is protect it. I'm open to God giving me other things to do. And, even when it comes down to Kansas City, we're creating a certification process for coaches that will allow coaches in Kansas City. We'll launch it um, late Q3, early Q4 of 2024. But coaches, man, woman, high school students that may say, I don't want to go to college, I want to be a professional coach, they'll be able to be certified by us and be able to go back into the Kansas City community and do what we're doing, regardless of the sport,
Sure.
regardless of the gender. And we actually even have some executives right now who, because a lot of CEOs still also coach their kids' hockey team, coach their kids' football team. And so there's a lot of executives here in Atlanta that are on standby to be professionally coached by us with a trauma informed approach so that they can be more professional. Well, not more professional, so they can be professional in the way they coach. So definitely looking forward to getting that out to you so we can
Yeah.
get some Kansas City coaches to come down to Atlanta
Yes,
and
sir.
get certified.
One more